It's happening. It's happening again, yet this time it looks even worse. But before I get to that, a new gaming CPU gets benchmarked. AMD just obliterated Intel in a way we never thought possible, and Nvidia's worst nightmare is here. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. This video is sponsored by OBS Bot. First up for today, AMD is launching a new gaming CPU that could end up being the new price-to-performance king. It's called the 7500X3D, and it was recently benchmarked a couple times on Geekbench. And given the name, we figured this would essentially be a slightly lower clocked 7600X3D, and that looks to be the case, making this a potential candidate for one of the best budget to mid-range gaming chips out there. If you remember, the 7600X3D launched as a Micro Center exclusive, which obviously made it hard for some users to get, but the chip itself was ultimately a fantastic price-to-performance beast. Sure, the 7800X3D was faster, but at just $300, the 7600X3D had incredible performance. Now, this brings me to the 7500X3D. As you can see in this benchmark, we have the 7500X3D, and it's a 6-core 12-thread CPU that's running at around 4.6 GHz. In fact, according to video cards, that is what the 7500X3D is rated for, which is just 100 MHz lower than the 7600X3D. And the benchmark results show this. It's just under the 7600X3D's performance. Basically, depending on the price, this could end up being an even better price-to-performance CPU, especially if you can overclock it for a bit more performance. Not only that, but given the timing of this, as well as the new 9000X3D leaks, I'd assume that AMD is planning to launch this sometime around CES, which would likely mean that it isn't exclusive to one retailer. I would guess that AMD is planning to release this with the higher end models to show that they have something at every budget, and this could definitely be a fantastic gaming CPU. Whoa, this is cool. AI is getting wild because I don't have a cameraman moving things around, and this webcam doesn't even need a gimbal. Using nothing but AI, it can track my movement and reframe the shot on the fly to keep me in the middle. And it's all thanks to the smallest 4K webcam out there, the OBS Bot Meet 2, a 4K webcam that, as you can see right here, looks pretty awesome, and it comes in 3 different colors. But the really impressive part is definitely that picture. I mean, it's honestly unreal how good such a small webcam can be, and that comes from its half-inch CMOS sensor, an f1.8 aperture for great low light, and a crystal clear image. Plus, it has phase detect autofocus for fast, accurate focus, and of course, AI. I know at this point that it's pretty much just a buzzword, but here it's actually practical because they offer different modes like upper body mode, which is self-explanatory, close up so it focuses closer to your face. They even have a portrait mode for short form content, not to mention gesture control so you can adjust zoom and a ton more. But the best part is that OBS Bot is offering up to 28% off their products for Black Friday and Cyber Monday when you use my code in the description below. So there's no better time to buy than right now. Next up for today, AMD just beat Intel in the most insane way possible. As you can see right down here, we have a list of sales from Amazon US in October of this year, and it's brutal. I'm talking both the 7800X3D and 9800X3D sold around 8,000 units alone. Just to give you an idea of just how bad that is, I mean, obviously AMD is at the top of like the top 10, 12, something like that. They have basically all of these top chips, but it's so bad that, as you can see here, the 9800X3D and 7800X3D alone, just those 2 chips, outsell the entire Intel CPU stack. And to sort of give you an idea of percentages here, according to Tech Epiphany, who originally shared these, AMD sold around 52,800 units, while Intel just sold 10,200. This makes AMD's units sold 83.8% of the total, with Intel at just 16.2%. And when looking at revenue with AMD, we're looking at $14,364,406.50, while Intel is just at $3,147,928. Basically, AMD is just completely dominating when it comes to the consumer market CPU sales. I mean, we haven't seen pretty much anything like this since Intel absolutely dominated the space themselves around a decade ago. And as far as what this means, I really just think it points to the fact that no company is too big to fail, even if you're at the absolute peak of your industry. If you start thinking that no one can catch you, so you stop innovating as well as you should, you absolutely can lose. I mean, if I would have told you 15 years ago that Intel could be on the verge of bankruptcy, you would have laughed in my face. Yet here we are. And next up, Nvidia's worst nightmare looks to be coming true. As I recently discussed in a video, OpenAI made a massive multi-billion-dollar deal with AMD to buy their GPUs over the next few years, starting with a 1 gigawatt deployment of their MI450 series GPUs. For reference, 1 gigawatt is roughly the electrical output of a modern, large nuclear reactor, and it's enough to power electricity to approximately 750,000 homes, and that's just the start of OpenAI's deal. Of course, like I've mentioned in the past, things are looking a bit odd for these AI companies given they seem to be buying in a circular pattern, but still, this is a huge deal for AMD, and it shows just how good their upcoming MI450 accelerator is set to be. Well, it looks like OpenAI is the only player that's interested in AMD's upcoming MI450 chips, as the CEO recently answered a question about that OpenAI deal and said this: "The OpenAI partnership is significant and has increased interest and engagement from other customers. We are planning for multiple customers at similar scales to OpenAI, ensuring a broad customer base to mitigate concentration risk." So yeah, she's talking multiple customers at a similar scale to that OpenAI deal. Basically, Nvidia's monopoly looks to be coming to an abrupt end. Not only that, but in a recent interview with a high-ranking Microsoft employee on data centers, what's wild is that it's apparently come to light that Microsoft has built some toolkits to help convert CUDA models to AMD's ROCm so that you could use it on AMD's 300X, and they are getting a lot of inquiries about AMD's path in the 400X and 450X. Now, for those who may not fully understand all of this, one of the biggest reasons Nvidia dominates so heavily in the industry is their CUDA suite of software. They essentially help to start this entire AI market, so a lot of experts use CUDA and are more familiar with it, and major software is built around it. AMD's ROCm is trying to compete with that, but they have a long way to go still. But according to this, Microsoft is actually trying to help convert CUDA to ROCm. One reason they list for this is that there's apparently a slowdown in training as more companies are starting to actually use the models, so they're increasingly wanting to save cost with inference, and apparently that makes them look to AMD. And lastly for today, it's happening again. GPU prices are about to start rising, but this time it's even worse. So as you know, I've covered this memory shortage that's coming for a little while now. First with predictions from ADATA's chairman, then later with it actually hitting spot prices, and finally it affecting retail markets. Well, now it's set to affect GPUs. So much so that one leaker claimed that it has caused Nvidia to cancel their RTX 50 Super GPUs. Now, I will say that I have an update on this one, but it's still really bad news. So, as you can see, Unicos Hardware claimed that the recent memory shortage has affected 3GB GDDR7 modules so badly that it's affecting Nvidia's Super series of GPUs. See, it was going from 2GB modules to 3GB that let Nvidia raise the amount of memory on their upcoming Super cards. But get this, it's not just 3GB GDDR7, because you can see that 2GB GDDR7 is apparently already increasing in cost, so you can expect your current gen cards to also start going up in price. Now, since this came out, another leaker, Megasize GPU, claims that there isn't a cancellation yet, but that this is the real deal. It's just going to be delayed to Q3 of 2026. Now, technically Nvidia isn't delaying something that they haven't announced yet, but this would essentially be an internal delay if they truly planned a Q1 release, but now they're moving to Q3. Not only that, but he claims that the 16GB 5060 Ti is set to also be in short supply very soon, because it uses denser GDDR7 modules as well. And like I said, this looks to also affect 2GB modules, so we can likely expect all of Nvidia's RTX 50 cards to go up in price. And I see no reason why GDDR6 won't go up as things begin to shift more heavily to GDDR7 production. Basically, prices are likely going up soon. So while that does it for today, let me know what you'd be willing to pay for a GPU down in the comments below. And don't forget to check out OBSBot's awesome deals down in the description below. And as always, have a great day.